Hello and welcome to this last session looking at the wounds of civil war by Thomas Lodge. We are looking at the end of the play, going from the second scene of Act 4 through to the end, time permitting. I mean, this is quite a big room. We might be a bit pressed for time. I'm hoping we'll manage to come up with some quality content as well as continuing to read the play. For the story so far, there's a civil war and it's creating wounds in society. That'll do. Go back and watch the previous videos. I have to say, when I said this is our third and last look at the wounds of civil war, I'm very keen to give this a second look quite soon. I have to say this one's gone so far very, very high up our list. But as with many of our sessions, who knows? Will the third session, the room suddenly turn against it, as sometimes happens? And will that be the play, or will that just be the room being, oh, it's a Wednesday. I'm in a funny mood on a Wednesday. I don't know if it seems to be a pattern I'm noticing. So I'm going to see whether that's there's any data on that. The room today is very full. We have this wonderful selection of readers reading parts of whom pronunciation I will inevitably get wrong. So reading today, Metellus and Fulvia is...
That's me, Rachel. Hi.
Reading Carinna and Flaccus is...
Hello, I'm Lynsey and I'm an actor and I'm currently under lockdown in Norfolk.
Reading Norbanus and Second Citizen and Citizens is...
Hello, I'm Valentina and I'm an Italian actor and voiceover artist in London.
Reading Carbo, First Citizens, and is a genius today.
And every day. I'm Helen, I'm a historian, I'm in Yorkshire and I wish I wasn't.
And reading today, Pompey is...
Hiya, I'm Dan, I'm an actor in Montpellier, France.
And reading Sylla today is...
Hello, I'm Emma Kemp, I'm an actor and I live in London.
And reading Lectorius today is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu and I'm an author based in Romford.
And reading Captain, Soldier, a Soldier Singular, a Consul and Lepidus today is...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott, locked down in Suffolk.
And continuing along the ranks of the soldiery, reading First Soldier and young Marius is...
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm an actor, and much like Helen, I wish I wasn't where I am.
Reading Second Soldier, there's a pattern emerging, and Lucretius is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and after yesterday, I'm ready for anything, but I still need coffee.
And reading Third Soldier, Tuditanus and Cornelia is...
I'm Lois. I'm an academic locked up in London.
Form 4's right turn, you lot. And reading Anthony and Poppey is...
I'm Pamela, I'm an actor, and I'm also locked up in London.
And reading a clown and Curtall is...
I'm Steve Longstaffe. I'm living the dream as long as the dream means rain.
And I am your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading the occasional stage direction that appears and also trying to keep the room moving forward as we assail the rest of this text. We are in Act 4. We've just had a very long scene where Marius, having taken Rome, has proved himself to be a teensy little bit of a git, being in competition, of course, with Sylla, who also has been just a tad bit tyrannical. But now, to change the mood, perhaps, we are going to Act 4, Scene 2, and we have the appearance of a clown. Will this clown lighten the mood? Let's see. Enter a clown, drunk, with a pot of wine in his hand, and 2 or 3 soldiers.
Sarah, dally not with us. You know where he is.
Sir, a quart is a quart in any man's purse, and drink is drink. And can my master live without drink? I pray you.
You have a master then, sir?
Have I a master, thou scoundrel? I have an orator, to my master. A wise man to my master. Fellows, I must make a parenthesis of this pint pot, for words make men dry. Now, by my troth, I drink to Lord Antony.
Fellow soldiers, the weakness of his brain hath made his tongue walk largely. We shall have some novelties by and by.
O most surpassing wine, thou marrow of the vine, more welcome unto me than whips to scholars be, thou art and ever was a means to mend an ass. Thou makest some to sleep, and many more to weep, and some be glad and merry with a hay down derry. Thou makest some to stumble, and many more to fumble, and me to have pinky nine, brave and jolly wine. What needs I praise thee, Mo? Thou art good with a hey-ho.
If wine be then so good, I prithee for thy part, tell us where Lord Anthony is, and thou shalt have a quart.
First shall the snow be black, and pepper lose his smack, and stripes forsake my back. First, merry drunk with that I will go boast, and track and all your custards crack. Before I do, the knack shall make me sing alack. Like when the old man is weary, wine is made him merry. Day-ho.
I prithee, leave these rhymes and tell us where thy master is.
Faith, where you shall not be. Let he go with me. Shall I tell them so? No. The man has many a foe, as far as I do know. You do not flout me, I hope. See how this liquor fumes, and how my force presumes. You know where Lord Antony is. I perceive you. Shall I say he's in yon farmhouse? I deceive you. Shall I tell you the wine is for him? God's forbid. And so I end. Here, fellow Physis, there's a bob for thee.
My masters, let us follow this clown, for questionless this grave orator is in yonder farmhouse. But who cometh yonder?
Enter old Anthony.
I wonder why my peasant stays so long, and with my wonder hasteth on my woe, and with my woe I am assailed with fear, and with my fear await with painful breath the final period of my pains by death.
Yon's the man we seek for, soldiers. Unsheath your swords and make a riddance of Marius's ancient enemy.
Master, fly, or else you die. Plague on this wine has made me so fine. Will you not be gone? I'll leave you alone and sleep upon your woe with a lamentable hey-ho.
And exit the clown.
Betrayed at last by witless oversight. No, Antony, prepare thyself to die. Lo, where the monstrous ministers of wrath menace thy murder with their naked swords.
Anthony, well met. The Consul Marius with other confederate senators have adjudged thee death. Therefore prepare thyself, and think we favour thee in this little protraction.
Immortal powers that know the painful cares that wait upon my poor distressed heart. Oh, bend your brows and level all your looks of dreadful awe upon these daring men. And thou, sweet niece of Atlas, on whose lips and tender tongue the pliant muses sit, let gentle course of sweet aspiring speech, let honey-flowing terms of weary woe, Let fruitful figures and delightful lines enforce a spring of pity from their eyes. Amaze the murderous passions of their minds, that they may favour woeful Antony. O countrymen, what shall become of Rome when reverend duty droppeth through disgrace? O countrymen, what shall become of Rome when woeful nature, widow of her joys, weeps on our walls to see her laws depressed? O Romans, hath not Antony's discourse sealed up the mouths of false seditious men, assoiled the doubts and quaint controls of power, relieved the mournful matron with his pleas? And will you seek to murder Antony? The lions brook with kindness their relief. The sheep reward the shepherd with their fleece. Yet Romans seek to murder Antony.
Why, what enchanting terms of art are these, that force my heart to pity his distress?
His action, speech, his favour, and his grace, my rancour, rage, and rigour doth deface.
So sweet his words, that now of late meseems his art doth draw my soul from out my lips.
What envious eyes, reflecting naught but rage! What barbarous heart, refreshed with naught but blood, that rends not to behold the senseless trees in doly season dropping without leaves? The shepherd sighs upon the barren hills to see his bleating lambs with faintful looks behold the valleys robbed of springing flowers, that whilom wont to yield them yearly food. Even meanest things, exchanged from former state, the virtuous mind with some remorse doth mate. Can then your eyes with thundering threats of rage cast furious gleams of anger upon age? Can then your hearts with furies mount so high as they should harm the Roman Antony? Aye, far more kind than senseless tree, have lent a kindly sap to our declining state, and like a careful shepherd have foreseen the heavy dangers of this city Rome, and made the citizens the happy flock, whom I have fed with counsels and advice. But now those locks, that for their reverend white surpass the down on Aesculapius' chin, but now that tongue, whose terms and fluent style for number passed the hosts of heavenly fires, but now that head, within whose subtle brains the queen of flowing eloquence did dwell. These
and importantly, enter a captain at this point.
These locks, this tongue, this head, this life, and all to please a tyrant, traitorously must fall.
Why, how now, soldiers? Is he living yet? And will you be bewitched with his words? Then take this fee, false orator, from me.
And the latecomer stabs him.
Elysium best beseems thy faintful limbs.
Oh, blissful pains! Now Antony must die, which served and loved Rome and her empery.
And Antony dies.
Go, Curtall off that neck with present stroke, and straight presented unto Marius.
Even in this head did all the muses dwell. The bees that sat upon the Grecian lips distilled their honey on his tempered tongue.
The crystal dew of fair Castalian springs with gentle floatings trickled on his brains. The graces kissed his kind and courteous brows. Apollo gave the beauties of his harp and melodies unto his pliant speech.
And enter Lectorius pensive.
Leave these presumptuous praises, countrymen, and see Lectorius, pensive where he comes. Lo, here, my lord, the head of Antony. See here the guerdon fit for Marius' foe, whom dread Apollo prosper in his rule.
O Romans, Marius sleeps among the dead, and Rome laments the loss of such a friend.
A sudden and a woeful chance, my lord, which we intentive fain would understand.
Though swollen with sighs, my heart for sorrow burst, and tongue with tears and plaints be choked up. Yet will I pour forth with forced breath a speedy passage to my pensive speech. Our Consul Marius, worthy soldiers, of late within a pleasant plot of ground, sat down for pleasure near a crystal spring, accompanied with many lords of Rome. Bright was the day, and on the spreading trees the frolic citizens of forests sung their lays and merry notes on perching boughs, when suddenly appeared in the east 7 mighty eagles with their talons fierce, who, waving oft about our consul's head, at last with hideous cry did soar away. When suddenly old Marius, aghast, with reverent smile, determined with a sigh, the doubtful silence of the standers by, Romans, said he, old Marius now must die. These 7 fair eagles, birds of mighty Jove, that at my birthday on my cradle sat, now at my last day borne me to my death, and lo, I feel the deadly pangs approach. What should I more? In brief, with many prayers for Rome, his son, his goods and lands disposed, our worthy consul, to our wonder died. The city is amazed, for Sylla hastes to enter Rome with fury, sword, and fire. Go place that head upon the Capitol, and to your wards, for dangers are at hand.
Had we foreseen this luckless chance before, old Antony had lived and breathed yet.
And the exit, and that's the end of the scene. This scene's doing a lot of work in different ways, all sorts of stuff going. You never know where you're going to be with this play. 1 minute you're one place, next minute you're somewhere else. So yeah, the clown. I mean, it's slightly misleading by being designated as clown, because that might just be to designate that it's the clown of the company rather than how far funny. Because the point about the clown is, of course, to a degree, he's trying not to tell them where his master is, and then he sort of lets it slip because he's very, very, very drunk. So it is funny, but also, of course, it's about soldiers searching for someone so they can murder him. So there's something really interesting going on there. And then we get Antony making this long, beautiful speech, and the soldiers suddenly feel pity for him. And we've had in many other plays, murderers suddenly feeling remorse. But then the captain comes in and he hasn't heard the speech and says, oh, forgot, get on with it. And then he's dead. And then we go into essentially messenger delivering plot. And so, yeah, all sorts of things going on here. Who wants to leap in with thoughts? This is doing so much work. Eric first.
I was going to say that it's interesting because it feels like the clown has appeared rather late in the plot compared to other plays where you usually get it get the clown from the beginning and sort of they build up the character and then sort of and then either kill him off or he's sort of just the fun part of the plot.
Well, yeah, we've essentially had 2 potential clown parts in the play so far. So in that sense, it's sort of part of a clown spectrum that we've got in this play, rather than a clown, as it were, a clown figure. Stephen?
Yeah, well, clown could just mean somebody from the country as well. I think it's a decision, isn't it? If you believe that this would go to, a company clown who would, by definition, get like 1 or 2 scenes and therefore be a massive part builder, then the whole thing can completely grind to a halt, which is what I was kind of trying to do, really. But you might like that, because it might be just a bit of relief, but equally you could play that at a real clip if you really wanted to take it in the direction that you've said. So it's to do with pacing and where we are in the play, what kind of pace we want, rather than anything about the scene, I think. And it depends if it's an actor who isn't trying to build a part, it could take half the time. Yeah,
and it's that question. They're talking about here. This talking about him rhyming. Is he doing a sort of song, or is he actually doing a full song? Is this, sort of how is his dialogue functioning? But again, we do have the content to this scene. The soldiers are running on with him. Where is he? Where's Antony? So the tension there is really interesting. Lynsey, I think I saw muted at present.
You did, and the point has been made.
Excellent. Other thoughts from the room? Lois.
Well, this is the end of Anthony, and every time he opens his mouth, someone talks about his honeyed words. I mean, all through the play, and this really does seem almost comic. I mean, he's doing it again, and the soldiers are really wowed by it. And then the captain comes in and says, "Oh, shut up," and kills him. And so much for honeyed words. I mean, I don't know. It's a really weird use of this character. It's almost like Lodge sending up the whole idea of the power of language and eloquence, and of writers like himself, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's heading towards that sort of pathetic ending, and therefore it needs to be done with absolute conviction, to really let those soldiers really believe in him, and it to be something really beautiful. And of course, if the man is effectively pleading for his life, in context, it's one of these scenes that really could go either way depending on how you play it. And it can be funny, and as well as making that comment about, well, words have no power, the sword always wins here. We've seen this several times in this play. We have these people debating things, and then someone comes on a sword and they win. For how long, of course. Other thoughts? Room goes silent. Lectorius at the end, entering and delivering plot. And again, we had the other day, I think Valentina brought it up, talking about the gods and augury and fate and fortune. And, this is very much one of those things of, there is a portent of death, and Marius very obligingly dies. And, considering we've just come from a massive scene with that character, and he dies off, but we've got someone dying on stage in this scene who's the tangential thing. So there is a real sense of anybody could win or lose at any moment for various random reasons. Perhaps there is no fate or just random stuff's happening. It feels like real life in many ways. Other thoughts? I'm just going to keep talking until somebody has something else to say. Nobody has anything else to say. Helen, muted at present.
It's history, just one damn thing after another.
And all these events crowding together and different things focused on. Eric.
I find it interesting that I don't know if this has happened before, like with other people who have been murdered or something, but like sort of the captain going, "Oh, if we'd seen this this opportunity before, we actually would have killed Antony," and it's like too late.
Yeah, the person who ordered his death is dead, so maybe we didn't have to do this. It's interesting the captain saying that, and I wonder whether maybe that actually fits better with one of the other soldiers who actually felt sorry for his death. But then again, maybe the captain who didn't really actually care is better for that. It's interesting, the question, I'm assuming the third soldier is the one who's chopping off Antony's head. And I'm assuming that's also happening off stage. There's no stage direction for it, but the two soldiers speak. The third soldier doesn't speak, and there's an indication that the head has been chopped off at some point in the interim. So I'm assuming the third soldier has got the sharpest sword. Is that happening on stage while things are happening, or is that how is that being affected? No answers are necessarily needed here. Okay. Other thoughts before we move into Act 5? Eric.
I was just sort of interested in how it says 2 or 3 soldiers. So like sometimes they can't get an extra on one of the days and they give the lines to someone else, basically. I'm guessing that's what happened.
I think that's a reasonable shout. I don't think that they are more desperately into distinguished characters. They all work in unison of being very sad. And it makes sense to have at least 2 on the principle that you've got to be able to make sure you can control Antony and make that work. Okay, anyone else? Tamara, are you waving? Yes.
Yeah, but just because I caught this comment in the chat that was saying how they like the idea of this scene going seriously because the audience expects Anthony to survive, and then that's cut short. I agree with that, but at the same time, it will get a nervous laugh.
Yeah, but yeah, it's the degree of how it works. I think there are points of laughter here, but is the scene, it's not, you know, we look at a scene that says enter clown, we think, aha, this is going to be knees up comedy. But actually, the comedy is in use in the drama of the scene.
Yeah.
And therefore you can play it at slightly different tones to create slightly different effects.
I think it would be more effective to do it as a kind of nervous laugh, just because of the way that the rest of the play sort of works, other than the clown scenes.
And then we can contrast this with thoughts about Pedro from earlier, about how the moments that look like they are comedy, how they actually function. So yeah. Any other thoughts before we go into the final act? The final countdown. No. Okay, we have various scenes to get through in Act 5. There are, in theory, 5 scenes, not necessarily properly marked in your script. We'll figure those as we go. So, we have, of course, the returning army of Sylla against, effectively, the head of the snake has been chopped off, in the sense of Marius has just died. Stage direction, a great skirmish in Rome and long. Some slain, so that's a big bit of business, people. Some fighting action there. We've had discussions of battles before. At last enter Sylla triumphant with Pompey, Metellus, citizens and soldiers.
Now, Romans, after all these mutinies, seditions, murders and conspiracies, imagine with impartial hearts at last what fruits proceed from these contentious brawls. Your streets, where erst the fathers of your state in robes of purple walked up and down, are strewed with mangled members, streaming blood. And why? The reasons of this ruthful rack are your seditious innovations, your fickle minds inclined to foolish change. Ungrateful men! Whilst I, with tedious pain in Asia, sealed my duty with my blood, making the fierce Dardanians faint for fear, spreading my colours in Galatia, dipping my sword in the Aenetans' blood, and foraging the fields of Phocidea. You called my foe from exile with his friends. You did proclaim me traitor here in Rome. You razed my house. You did defame my friends, but, brawling wolves, you cannot bite the moon, for Sylla lives, so forward to revenge, as woe to those that sought to do me wrong. I now am entered Rome in spite of force, and will so hamper all my cursed foes, as be he tribune, consul, lord, or knight, that hateth Sylla, let him look to die. And first, to make an entrance to mine ire, bring me that traitor Carbo out of hand.
O Sylla, in revenging injuries, inflict the pain where first offense did spring, and for my sake establish peace in Rome, and pardon these repentant citizens.
Pompey, I do love thee, Pompey, and consent to thy request, but, Romans, have regard, lest overreaching in offence again, I load your shoulders with a double pain.
And exit citizens, bring in Carbo bound.
But, Pompey, see where jolly Carbo comes, footing it featly like a mighty man. What? No obedience, sirrah, to your lord?
My lord? No, Sylla. He that thrice hath borne the name of Consul scorns to stoop to him whose heart doth hammer naught but mutinies.
And doth your lordship then disdain to stoop?
Aye, to mine equal, Pompey, as thou art.
Thine equal, villain? No, he is my friend. Thou, but a poor anatomy of bones, cased in a knavish, tawny, withered skin. Wilt thou not stoop? Art thou so stately then?
Sylla, I honour gods, not foolish men.
Then break that withered bough that will not bend. And soldiers, cast him down before my feet.
And they throw him down.
Now, prating sir, my foot upon thy neck. I'll be so bold to give your lordship check. Believe me, soldiers, but I overreach. Old Carbo's neck at first was made to stretch.
Though body bend, thou tyrant most unkind, yet never shalt thou humble Carbo's mind.
Ah, sir, I know, for all your warlike pith, a man may mar your worship with a whiff. You, sirrah, levied arms to do me wrong. You brought your legions to the gates of Rome. You fought it out in hope that I would faint. But, sirrah, now betake you to your books. Entreat the gods to save your sinful soul. For why this carcass must in my behalf go feast the ravens that serve our augur's turn. Methinks I see already how they wish to bait their beaks in such a jolly dish.
Sylla, thy threats and scoffs amate me not. I prithee, let thy murderers hale me hence, for Carbo rather likes to die by sword than live to be a mocking stock to thee.
The man hath haste. Good soldiers, take him hence. It would be good to alter his pretence, but be advised that when the fool is slain, you part the head and body both in twain. I know that Carbo longs to know the cause, and shall. Thy body for the ravens, thy head for the doors.
O matchless ruler of our capital, behold poor Rome with grave and piteous eye, fulfilled with wrong and wretched tyranny.
And exit Carbo with some soldiers. Just before we go further into this scene, I just want to pause on Carbo. Who is Carbo? It always slightly annoys me with plays, especially history plays, when you get so far into a narrative and then they start introducing characters who we've never met in Act 5 who are going to be horribly killed. I don't care. If it was Cinna, I would enjoy this scene because it would be someone we've already met or something like that. But I don't know who Carbo is, so that's my one criticism of that. Otherwise, it's quite an interesting little scene. Thoughts from the room, Rachel?
I mean, Pompey says, "O Sylla, in revenging injuries, and for my sake establish peace in Rome and pardon these repentant citizens." Carbo could just be a citizen, and it could just be like, what do you call it? Like during the French Revolution, where they were just, what was it called? Like the Terror or something, like where they were just, everybody was getting killed. And this could just be a scene where it shows just how depraved Sylla's become, that these people, he can, they're not politicians that have power to take him out of like his place. This is just a normal citizen, and here for not, hailing him like a god, he's putting him to death.
So he's a representative of the citizens who exited earlier, and as a spokesperson kind of figure. Okay, I can buy that.
Yeah, except that he's a consular. He has thrice borne the name of consul. I mean, he's been consul 3 times, which is extraordinary. I mean, he's not, by his own words, he isn't. He is a model for the heroic Roman who does not stoop to tyranny. I think. I mean, no lead why it should be.
Yesterday we were talking about like sort of The Godfather, and I realized that this actually reminds me of sort of, the sort of revenge killings in those kind of contexts as well, but also films like The History of Violence, where you've got sort of, it's like just violence basically without any explanation, because I mean, he's establishing his power basically.
But yeah, I'd just like it to be someone we've met. Anything else before we get deeper into the scene? Because the scene is not over. More Sylla action, I'm sure, is about to occur. No. Okay. So, having exited Carbo, enter Scipio, Norbanus, and Carinna.
Tut! The proud man's prayer will never pierce the sky. But whither press these mincing senators?
We press with prayers, we come with mournful tears, entreating Sylla by those holy bands that link fair Juno with the thundering Jove, even by the bonds of hospitality, to pity Rome afflicted through thy wrath. Thy soldiers, Sylla, murder innocents. Oh, whither will thy lawless fury stretch, if little wrath ensue thy country's harms?
Gay words, Norbanus, full of eloquence, accompanied with action and conceit. But I must teach thee judgment therewithal. Darest thou approach my presence, that hast borne thine arms in spite of Sylla and his friends? I tell thee, foolish man, thy judgment wanted in this presumptuous purpose that is past. And, loitering scholar, since you fail in art, I'll learn you judgment shortly to your smart. Dispatch him, soldiers. I must see him die. And you, Carinna, Carbo's ancient friend, shall follow straight your headless general. And, Scipio, were it not I love thee well, thou should accompany these slaves to hell. But get you gone, and if you love yourself.
And exit the unspeaking Scipio.
Pardon me, Sylla, pardon, gentle Sylla.
Sirrah, this gentle name was coined too late, and shadowed in the shrouds of biting hate. Dispatch!
And they kill him.
Why so? Good fortune to my friends. As for my foes, even such shall be their ends. Convey them hence. Metellus, gentle Metellus, fetch me Lectorius from Iberia. In doing so, thou standest me instead, for sore I long to see the traitor's head.
I go, confirmed to conquer him by sword, or in the exploit to hazard life and all.
And exit Metellus.
Now, Pompey, let me see. Those senators are dangerous stops of our pretended state, and must be curtailed lest they grow too proud. I do prescribe just 40 senators, which shall be leaders in my tragedy. And for our gentlemen are overproud, of them 1,600 die, a goodly army, meet to conquer hell. Soldiers, perform the course of my decree. Their friends my foes, their foes shall be my friends. Go sell their goods by trumpet at your wills. Meanwhile, Pompey shall see, and Rome shall rue, the miseries that shortly shall ensue.
And exit. So, it's not just... there's quite a few people getting it here. There's a sort of parade of people coming in and out, which changes things. There's an unfortunate shift in meaning in some of Sylla's lines there when talking about mincing characters with gay words. That is not what the text is trying to say there.
Are you sure?
I'm very certain. We got people coming in saying, please don't kill everyone. And we get various people pleading for life. Some people are randomly selected to survive. Some people are killed on stage. And 1,600 are listed for death off stage. And more importantly, the state is going to be curtailed. Just 40 senators in future. And presumably they're going to be very carefully chosen to be yes people. Lots of things coming up there. Have I misread into something? Lois and then Helen.
Yes, he doesn't prescribe 40 senators, he proscribes them, which means they're going to be killed.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
I see, yes. Helen, were you going to...
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Other thoughts? Yeah, as someone was saying in chat, Rachel's reference to the terror there of this is a state really eating itself now. That once you pop, you just can't stop. You know, he's secured Rome once. He's come back. He's securing it again, and it just means that more and more people are dying. And the fact that it's a lesser characters who we've not met before, perhaps that's actually the point. And that actually my objection is meaningless. That actually now he's just working through the second rung line of people just because they're there, not because they're actually against him. And they're just going to be there as fodder for his large-scale political statements. I do like Scipio gets a name check, but is played by an extra. I like that. You know, let's get the names in, people. Lynsey.
Yeah, just on a point about that, I'm thinking about practicalities and how large a cast would you have to have in order to actually have everyone being played by a separate actor. Would obviously be impossible. So the doubling in the play would be quite an interesting task.
Well, it's interesting actually. If we look at the core company, the people who, shall we say, have really big chunky parts, that's relatively small. But then the amount of extreme doubling that's going with everybody else is, it could be done with a relatively controllable number of people. But equally, you could expand this to be a cast of thousands, and hell, I kind of would like that to happen. I'd like to donate for that to happen now. Alan, I saw a hand.
Yeah, I mean there are 45 named speaking roles, 16 a maximum in any one scene, and God knows how many non-speaking extras. I didn't even bother counting them.
Yeah, we haven't, for example, internally made a note of Scipio because it doesn't say a damn thing. Could be anybody. Other thoughts before we move into what we will call scene 2? No. Okay. Everyone's very much taking to heart my my injunction at the beginning of the session to say don't go on too long. Maybe possibly we've gone too far the other way now. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. So scene 2. There's another battle scene. There is a larum. There is a skirmish. There is a retreat. So lots of stuff to wake the audience up after that particular another bloody little scene. Enter young Marius, who's still alive. It's only Daddy who's dead. Upon the walls of Praeneste with some soldiers all in black and wonderful melancholy.
Oh, endless course of needy man's avail! What silly thoughts, what simple policies make man presume upon this traitorous life? Have I not seen the depth of sorrow once, and then again have kissed the queen of chance? O Marius, thou, Tulicius, and thy friends, hast seen thy foe discomfited in fight. But now the stars have formed my final harms. My father Marius, lately dead in Rome, my foe with honour doth triumph in Rome. My friends are dead and banished from Rome. I, Marius, father, friends, more blessed than thee. They dead, I live, I thralled, they are free. Here in Praeneste am I cooped up, amongst a troop of hunger-starved men, set to prevent false Sylla's fierce approach, but now exempted both of life and all. Well, Fortune, since thy fleeting change hath cast poor Marius from his hopes and true desires, my resolution shall exceed thy power. Thy coloured wings steeped in purple blood, thy blinding wreath disdained in purple blood, thy royal robes washed in my purple blood, shall witness to the world thy thirst of blood. And when the tyrant Sylla shall expect to see the son of Marius stoop to fear, then my mind shall well appear, that scorn my life and hold mine honour dear.
There's an alarum and a retreat.
Hark how these murderous Romans, viper-like, seek to bewray their fellow citizens. O wretched world, from whence with speedy flight true love, true zeal, true honour late is fled.
What makes my lord so careless and secure to leave the breach and here lament alone?
Not fear, my friend, for I could never fly, but study how with honour for to die. I pray thee call the chiefest citizens, I must advise them in a weighty cause. Here shall they meet me, and until they come, I will go view the danger of the breach.
Exit young Marius with the soldiers, and we can call that the end of another unit of action. Maybe not, we can debate that in a moment. So yeah, big speechy time from young Marius there. I think it'd be fair to say that there's a lot of purple blood going around here. A little bit of rhetorical devising going on. Thoughts from the room on young Marius? Tamara, seeming in a good mood, young Marius there.
Definitely. Having the time of his life. Not. I just made a note that I really like this speech as a monologue, actually.
Yeah, it's another speech in this play, second speech in this play of someone marshalling an army in the middle of a melee. You know, this is talking about a breach. The other one was trying to call his retreating army back, and slightly different approaches in that sense. So Sylla basically guilt tripped his men into staying with him, whereas this is a very different kind of text. Other thoughts about that speech and this bit of scenet? Lois.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a speech. It seems more of a soliloquy. I mean, he is with some soldiers, but when he says, here in Praeneste am I cooped up amongst a troop of hunger-starved men, I mean, he's presumably talking about people like this, and it doesn't seem to me that he's really addressing them or telling them to do anything.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, in the sense of the context of what the kind of things they're doing there. But you know, it's a similar in the midst of action kind of speech, even if it's to the audience. Just I like parallels, even when things are different, but they're doing similar things. Because we don't really know much about young Marius, do we? Do we like young Marius? Do we know anything about young Marius, really? Did we know anything about old Marius? Really? Did we really get into his head at all?
It seems a long time ago, but I have a feeling we did.
Oh, we have met him, you know, but you know, have we got into him, as it were? Seemed quite earnest to me. Lynsey.
Yeah, I was just going to say there didn't seem to be a huge psychological expression of old Marius's, you know, change from, you know, moderate to extremist. So I don't think that's what's, you know, what's going on.
It's that how people are reacting to the situation, the room they're in at the time. I think that's perhaps a better way of looking at the way the characters are functioning in this play. I don't know if that's a fair way of putting it.
Yeah.
Helen.
As I remember Marius, he was interested in reputation and in his posterity. He was much more interested in young Marius. That's how I remember it, but I'd have to look it up.
Lois.
Yeah, I think they were probably a fairly devoted father and son. I mean, there's an earlier scene where young Marius has I think another sort of soliloquy about how he's trying to find his father and can't, and sort of in despair about this. And quite rightly, because however things are going in Rome, he needs his father to be the one that leads them there.
Okay, let's move further into the action, whether this is a separate scene or just a continuation of this kind of ongoing melee. For we have enter with drums and soldiers Lucretius with other Romans as Tuditanus, etc. So we'll see where this goes.
Say, Tuditanus, didst thou ever see so desperate defense as this has been?
As in Numidia, tigers wanting food, or as in Libya, lions full of ire, so fare these Romans on Praeneste walls.
Their valor, Tuditanus, and resist. The manlike fight of younger Marius makes me amazed to see their miseries, and pity them, although they be my foes. What said I, foes? Oh, Rome with Ruth, I see thy state consumed through folly and dissension. Well, sound a parley. I will see if words...
And stage direction probably not in the desperately the
Yeah.
good place. Sound of parley, young Marius appears upon the walls with the citizens. Probably should follow the end of your sentence that you're halfway through.
Yeah, it makes more sense. I will see if words can make them yield, which will not fly for strokes.
Parley is sounded.
What seeks this Roman warrior at our hands?
That seeks he, Marius, that he wisheth thee, an humble heart and then a happy peace. Thou seest thy fortunes are depressed and down, thy victuals spent, thy soldiers weak with want. The breach laid open, ready to his souls. Now, since thy means and maintenance are done, yield, Marius, yield, Prinistians, be advised. Lucretius is advised to favor you. I pray thee, Marius, mark my last advice. Relent in time, let Sylla be thy friend, so thou in Rome mayst lead a happy life, and those with thee shall pray for Marius still.
Lucretius, I consider on thy words. Stay there while. Thou shalt have answer straight.
Apollo grant that my persuasions may preserve these Roman soldiers from the sword.
My friends and citizens of Praeneste town, you see the wayward working of our stars, our hearts confirmed to fight, our victuals spent. If we submit, its Sylla must remit, a tyrant, traitor, enemy to Rome, whose heart is guarded still with bloody thoughts. These flattering vows Lucretius here vows are pleasing words to colour poisoned thoughts. What, will you live with shame or die with fame?
A famous death, my lord, delights us most.
We of thy faction, Marius, are resolved to follow thee in life and death together.
Words full of worth, beseeming noble minds, the very balsamum to mend my woes. O countrymen, you see Campania spoiled, a tyrant threatening mutinies in Rome, a world despoiled of virtue, faith, and trust. If then, no peace, no liberty, no faith, conclude with me and let it be no life. Live not to see your tender infants slain, these stately towers made level with the land, this body mangled with our enemy's sword, but full resolved to do as Marius doth. Unsheath your poniards, and let every friend bethink him of a soldier-like farewell. Sirrah, display my standard on the walls, and I will answer yond Lucretius, who loveth Marius. Now must die with Marius.
What answer will your lordship then return us?
Lucretius, we that know what Sylla is, how dissolute, how trothless and corrupt, in brief, conclude to die before we yield. But so to die, Lucretius, mark me well, as loth to see the fury of our swords should murder friends and Roman citizens. Fie, countrymen! What fury doth infect your warlike bosoms that were wont to fight with foreign foes, not with Campanian friends? Now unadvised youth must counsel eld, for governance is banished out of Rome. Woe to that bough from whence these blooms are sprung. Woe to that Etna vomiting his fire. Woe to that brand consuming country's weal. Woe to that Sylla, careless and secure, that gapes with murder for a monarchy. Go, second Brutus, with a Roman mind, and kill that tyrant, and for Marius' sake, pity the guiltless wives of these your friends. Preserve their weeping infants from the sword, whose fathers seal their honours with their bloods. Farewell, Lucretius. First I press in place to let thee see a constant Roman die.
And stab.
Prenessians, lo, a wound, a fatal wound. The pain but small, the glory passing great. Prenessians, see a second stroke. Why so?
And again.
I feel the dreeping dimness of the night, closing the coverts of my careful eyes. Follow me, friends, for Marius now must die with fame in spite of Sylla's tyranny.
And Marius dies.
We follow thee, our chieftain, even in death. Our town is thine, Lucretius, but we pray for mercy for our children and our wives.
And we have another dies stage direction there.
Oh, save my son, Lucretius, let him live.
And another dies stage direction there.
Oh, wondrous and bewitched constancy, beseeming Marius's pride and haughty mind. Come, let us charge the breach. The town is ours. Both male and female put them to the sword. So please you, Sylla, and fulfill his word.
Excellent. Okay, let's unpack what's going on there. Who's stabbing who, and who's dying when, and why? Thoughts from the room, please. Lois.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those famous legends that you get about other cities as well, I think, where the citizens decide to commit suicide rather than yield the town or live under a conqueror.
So everybody's committing suicide. It seems to be the thing going on here. Or is the stabbing being committed by somebody else? What's the feeling in the room? Who's stabbing whom? Helen.
It's definitely suicides, 3 of them. But they are presumably the Marius, young Marius, and the 2 most prominent citizens. And in hope that death will mean that because the town's no longer defensible. So they're hoping that death will save their wives and children, which it won't.
No, Lucretius here suddenly coming into focus as the person in charge of this army. Both male and female put them to the sword. So this is going to be very much one of those mass slaughter incidents there. So domino suicides. So why does Marius kill himself there? What's his motivation?
It's the Roman thing to do. It's the noble thing to do. He can't win. He would have to be a prisoner to Sylla, and that is not acceptable for a noble Roman.
I thought it was more the Egyptians that committed suicide when they were coming to, because it just makes me think of Cleopatra and how she had a snake bite her, but she died.
We've got there's a lot of cultures who have this idea of the noble way out. I mean, we actually had it in this play earlier when the 2 women said, give us an opportunity, give us a couple of days alone to kill ourselves, give us that option of that way out, rather than you killing us, which in the end is not necessary in that scene. There's a lot of it about.
And Marius lets them go, which puts Marius on the better side. Slightly.
Rachel.
I think there was like a law in Rome that if somebody had committed a crime and they killed themselves, their family couldn't be held accountable. And so I think Lucretius then continuing to go after, the families of the people. And this is kind of supposed to be just it's not just that they're divided anymore and that they're going after the citizens, but all the laws and everything are just gone. It's completely, it doesn't make sense anymore. There's just a bloodbath.
I think that's a good point. The conventions are falling apart. Agreed practices are going. It doesn't. If we kill ourselves, then maybe it'll spare the town. No, doesn't happen. All those hopes and negotiated things don't necessarily happen. Eric.
I'm just wondering, because Lucretius actually says that he kind of admires Marius, basically. And then he goes on to like take the town and slaughter everybody because of Sylla. And I'm just wondering how that happens. How do you go from like, oh my God, this guy is incredible, well, not incredible, but like sort of a great general and stuff, a great warrior, and then to sort of kill everybody?
Well, it depends, because that could be public speech there. So it might be, you are a great general, sir. Just give up now. You won't, your honor won't be tarnished, kind of thing. So it might not be wholly sincere. Again, people lie in this play a lot, and that makes our difficulty sometimes. Just going, what's the people's motivations? Actually, you need to construct a framework underneath the surface if you really want to follow that psychological route. It might not all be on the surface, because they could just be lying a lot of the time. Helen?
The fact is that although Sylla isn't in this scene, he also is. Because Sylla is in everybody's mind. He's in Marius's mind, and then he's in Lucretius's mind. This is what Sylla says has to be done, therefore it has to be done. And the rights and wrongs of the matter don't enter into it.
Nuremberg defence.
Well, there's an element of that in the true tragedy of Richard III as well. Of part of what that play is doing is it's demonstrating how everybody else is doing things because Richard is corrupting the rest of society. And that people, he's not necessarily the main actor. He's just enabling other people to do really horrible things, and creating a world where, yes, you're always thinking about Richard in that play and what he might do to you. And here, Sylla is in a similar vein, isn't he? Alan?
I'm thinking, coming back to the debate we were having about whether there's a scene break, my feeling is that young Marius' soliloquy into this whole sequence we've just been through to the stage listed with bodies is a single scene, and that a new scene begins with the next stage direction, the skirmish, the retreat.
Yeah, Lucretius and etc. entering with their drums is really just to give Marius time to get up onto the walls.
Yeah.
But it's essentially the same location, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the stage isn't really cleared in a way. So yeah, I put a big question mark next to that on that. How to think about that. And it could go either way depending on how you want to think about it. Other thoughts? Eric?
This makes me think of the Spartans for some reason, because it's like sort of, especially the line, "Oh, wondrous and bewitched constancy." That's basically what the Persians admired about the Spartans, because of, sort of so few against so many kind of thing. And of course, their military tactics and so on. And of course, Rome then became the sort of model for every other state that wanted to, what do you call it? Develop an empire or in some militaristic fashion. So I don't know if that level of loyalty is sort of carries through to other cultures as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also interested, but just the way that it's highlighting everything. Soldiers are all in black and wonderful melancholy at the beginning of this sequence. They've marked themselves out visually as we are in mourning, not just for dead people off stage, but also for ourselves before we die. It's sort of setting it all that up. Lois.
Strange, isn't it? Because in Tamburlaine, there's the bit about the first day he besieges the city, wears white, the next day it's red, the next day it's black, which means everybody's had it, and he'll slaughter everyone. And I think there is even a stage direction about Tamburlaine coming on wondrous melancholy. So there's, it's almost as if, well, they've got the costumes, I suppose.
Yeah, it's very hard not to think of this and Tamburlaine in the same breath, of they're orbiting each other with each other's materials in the same company.
And props.
And props, yeah.
Well, I mean, we've had the chariot drawn by kings.
So lots of fun there. Let's move on into the next scene. Depending on your point of view, scene 3 or 4 of the act. We have a little skirmish now. Another little skirmish just to break up the mood. Lots of people presumably screaming as the entire town is put to death. And then there's a retreat. Enter in royally. Lucretius. So we've just seen him ordering all this destruction. Skirmish to presumably get him to do his costume change off stage, and then come back on. Look at me, aren't I fabulous? Go Lucretius.
Now, Romans, we have caught Proneste low, and Marius sleeps amidst the dead last. So then, to Rome, my countrymen, with joy, whose Sylla waits the tidings of our fight. Those prisoners that are taken, see forthwith with warlike javelins, you put them to death. Come, let us march. See Rome inside my hearts, where Sylla waits the tiding of our war.
And they spoke his name. Enter Sylla, Valerius, Flaccus, Lepidus, Pompey, citizens' guard, etc. Sylla, seated in his robes of state, is saluted by the citizens, etc. More pomp, more circumstance. Scene continues.
Romans, you know, and to your griefs have seen, a world of troubles hatched here at home, which through prevention being well nigh crossed by worthy Sylla and his warlike band, I, Consul, with these fathers, think it meet to fortify our peace and city's weal, to name some man of worth that may supply dictator's power and place, whose majesty shall cross the courage of rebellious minds. What think you, Romans? Will you condescend?
Nay, Flaccus, for their profits they must yield, for men of mean condition and conceit must humble their opinions to their lords. And if my friends and citizens consent, since I am born to manage mighty things, I will, though loth, both rule and govern them. I speak not this as though I wish to reign, but for to know my friends, and yet again I merit, Romans, far more grace than this.
Aye, countrymen, if Sylla's power and mind, if Sylla's virtue, courage, and device, if Sylla's friends and fortunes merit fame, none then but he should bear dictator's name.
What think you, citizens? Why stand ye mute? Shall Sylla be dictator here in Rome?
By full consent, Sylla shall be dictator.
Yes.
Then in the name of Rome, I here present the rods and axes into Sylla's hand, and fortunate prove Sylla, our dictator.
Everyone cries
Sylla!
within.
Sylla, dictator!
Dictator.
Sylla dictator from everyone. Yes, all the citizens are perfectly happy. Pompey having just slightly prompted them. Why are you silent? Do you think he should rule? Having seen this display of pomp, of course, what do they sound? They get a cue from the trumpets. Off they go. Sylla responds to this spontaneous call of triumph to him.
My fortunes, Flaccus, cannot be impeached, for at my birth the planets passing kind could entertain no retrograde aspect, and that I may with kindness quite their love. My countrymen, I will prevent the cause against all the false encounters of mishap. You name me your dictator, but prefix no time, no course, but give me leave to rule, and yet exempt me not from your revenge. Thus by your pleasures being set aloft, straight by your furies I should quickly fall. No, citizens, who readeth Sylla's mind, must form my titles in another kind. Either let Sylla be dictator ever, or flatter Sylla with these titles never.
Perpetual be thy glory and renown. Perpetual Lord Dictator shalt thou be.
Hereto the Senate frankly doth agree.
Then so shall Sylla reign, you senators. Then so shall Sylla rule, you citizens. As senators and citizens that please me shall be my friends, the rest cannot disease me.
And now we have the entrance of Lucretius, but I think I just want to talk through the stage management of all of what just happened before, because, you know, Lucretius comes on. He is the prologue. The prologue cues on Sylla by stating, and here's Sylla. and comes in with all those people. Everybody salutes. We get various people saying how wonderful he is. We get the cue from Pompey for everyone to cheer and say how great he is. And we have these citizens' lines. Helen's been reading all the citizens for the viewers at home. Those are citizens, that's everyone crying. And then just to make it absolutely clear, when your cue for absolutely everyone is to respond, the trumpets sound. And that sort of possibly has overlaps with civic pageantry as well, that the cueing of certain acts and certain movements in, say, Lord Mayor shows, the trumpets cue in when he's stepping onto the barge and making his way. And that there might be some interesting resonances for the viewers of this in the original theatres. Thoughts on the room about this bit of stage management?
It's set up, isn't it?
I mean, there's no chancing what's happening in any of this. That's why I paused it. From this point onwards, maybe there's a chance for something random to happen, but so far, script all the way. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's I mean, the dictator was a 6-month office, I think, 6-month renewable, but it was a fixed term. Perpetual dictator was, I think, a complete innovation, despite the fact that Sylla's saying he doesn't innovate.
Yeah. Yes, perpetual Lord Dictator. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Other thoughts in the room? Eric, then Lois.
My brain must be working in very strange ways today, because you just said perpetual Lord Dictator. My brain just went High Lord Executioner from the Mikado, which is not an association that it's not funny at all. No, but it's interesting how it sort of he goes from sort of just wanting to be. I'm assuming at the beginning he goes from being a consul to sort of because I wasn't here for the beginning to wanting power. And then it's like an escalation, and the more the power escalates, the more the the more the violence escalates as well.
Yes, I mean he's sort of thwarted at the beginning and has a lot of umbrage, and so he escalates pretty fast actually. So maybe everyone was right about him at the beginning. Lois.
Yeah, well, that speech beginning, nay, Flaccus, for their profits they must yield, as opposed to condescend. I mean, it's just so typical of Sylla. It's first, they've got to do it, and there's no question of discussing this. And then it's, since I am born to manage mighty things, I will, though loath, both rule and govern them. I mean, really. And then, I don't really want to rule. I'm just sort of running for this office and just to see how it goes, see who's my friend. I mean, it's just such a... either he's really being very stupid or he's trying to be very clever, but it's just back and forth all the time.
Yeah, there's a quality of almost a humble brag about it, isn't there? Of going, though obviously I'm great, but I don't really want to do these things for you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's. Helen.
Yeah. Condescend. I did put it in the chat. Condescend does not have its modern meaning. Yeah. It only meant just agree.
Consent rather than.
Yeah. Well, it meant agree with, approve.
Okay, let's move on. So the stage managed element may still continue. I could be wrong, but we have here the entrance of Lucretius. So presumably he exited having announced the arrival of Sylla there. So how that functions precisely, that's interesting. But anyway, re-enter Lucretius with soldiers.
But see, where Lucretius is returned. Welcome, brave Roman. Where is Marius? Are these Praenestians put unto the sword?
The city noble Sylla raised is, and Marius dead, not by our swords, my lord, but with more constancy than Cato died.
What constancy? And but a very boy. Why then I see he was his father's son. But let us have this constancy described.
After our fierce assaults and their resist, our siege, they're sallying out to stop our trench, labor and hunger reigning in the town. The younger Marius on the city's wall vouchsafed an interparley at the last, wherein with constancy and courage too he boldly armed his friends, himself to death, and spreading of his colours on the wall, for answer said he could not brook to yield, or trust a tyrant such as Sylla was.
What? Did the brain-sick boy upbraid me so? But let us hear the rest, Lucretius.
And after great persuasions to his friends and a worthy resolution of them all, he first did sheathe his poniard in his breast, and so in order died all the rest.
Now, by my sword, this was a worthy jest. Yet, silly boy, I needs must pity thee, whose noble mind could never mated be. Believe me, countrymen, a sudden thought, a sudden change in Sylla now hath wrought. Both Marius and his son were men of name, nor fortune's laughs nor lows their minds could tame. And when I count their fortunes that are past, I see that death confirmed their fames at last. Then he that strives to manage mighty things amidst his triumphs gains a troubled mind. The greatest hope, the greatest harm it brings, and poor men in content their glory find. If then content be such a pleasant thing, why leave I country life to live a king? Yet kings are gods, and make the proudest stoop, yea, but themselves are still pursued with hate, and men were made to mount and then to droop. Such chances wait upon uncertain fate, that where she kisseth once, she quelleth twice. Then whoso lives content is happy, wise. What motion moveth this philosophy? Oh, Sylla, see the ocean ebbs and flows, the springtime wanes when winter draweth nigh. Aye, these are true and most assured notes, in constant chance such tickle turns has lent, as whoso fears no fall must seek content.
Whilst graver thoughts of honour should allure thee, what maketh Sylla muse and mutter thus?
I, that have passed amidst the mighty troops of armed legions through a world of war, do now bethink me, Flaccus, of my chance. How I alone, where many men were slain, in spite of fame am come to Rome again. And though I wield the reverend styles of state, she, Sylla, with a beck could break thy neck. What lord of Rome hath dared as much as I? Yet, Flaccus, knowest thou not that I must die? The labouring sisters on the weary looms have drawn my web of life at length, I know, and men of wit must think upon their tombs. The beasts with careless steps to Lethe go, where men, whose thoughts and honours climb on high, living with fame, must learn with fame to die.
What lets my lord in governing this state to live in rest and die with honour too?
What lets me, Pompey? Why, my courteous friend, can he remain secure that wields a charge, or think of wit when flatterers do commend, or be advised that careless runs at large? No, Pompey, honey words make foolish minds, and power the greatest wit with error blinds. Flaccus, I murdered Antony, thy friend. Romans, some here have lost at my command their fathers, mothers, brothers, and allies. And think you, Sylla, thinking these misdeeds, bethinks not on your grudges and mislike? Yes, countrymen, I bear them still in mind. Then, Pompey, were I not a silly man, to leave my rule and trust these Romans then?
Your grace hath small occasions of mistrust, nor seek these citizens for your disclaim.
But, Pompey, now these reaching plumes of pride that mounted up my fortunes to the clouds, by grave conceit shall straight be laid aside. And Sylla thinks of far more simple shrouds. For having tried occasion in the throne, I'll see if she dare frown when state is gone. Lo, senators, the man that sat aloft now deigns to give inferiors highest place. Lo, here the man whom Rome repined off, a private man, content to brook disgrace. Romans, lo, here the axes, rods, and all. I'll master fortune, lest she make me thrall. Now whoso list accuse me, tell my wrongs, upbraid me in the presence of this state. Is none these jolly citizens among that will accuse, or say I am ingrate? Then will I say, and boldly boast my chances, that naught may force the man whom fate advances.
What meaneth Sylla in this sullen mood to leave his titles on the sudden thus?
Consul, I mean with calm and quiet mind to pass my days till happy death I find.
What greater wrong than leave thy country so?
Both it and life must Sylla leave in time.
Yet during life have care of Rome and us.
Oh, wanton world, that flatterest in thy prime, and breathest balm and poison mixed in one. See how these wavering Romans wished my reign, that whilom fought and sought to have me slain. My countrymen, this city wants no store of fathers, warriors to supply my room. So grant me peace, and I will die for Rome.
And enter two burglars to them, Poppey and Curtall.
These are very indiscreet counsels, neighbour Poppey. I will follow your misadvisement.
I tell you, goodman Curtall, the wench hath wrong. O vain world, O foolish men! Could a man in nature cast a wench down and disdain in nature to lift her up again? Could he take away her dishonesty without bouncing up the bands of matrimony? O learned poet, well didst thou write fustian verse. These maids are doors that go to the laws, and a babe in the belly.
Tut, man, 'tis the way the world must follow, for maids must be kind, good husbands to find.
But mark the first, if they swell before, it will grieve them sore. But see, yon's Master Sylla, faith, a pretty fellow is
What seek my countrymen? What would my friends?
They say your kind words will not save the turn. Why, think you to thrust your soldiers into our kindred with your courtesies, sir?
I tell you, Master Sylla, my neighbour will have the law. He had the right, he will have the wrong, for therein dwells the law.
What desire these men of Rome?
Neighbour, sharpen the edge tool of your wits upon the whetstone of indiscretion, that your words may shine like the razors of Palermo. You have learning with ignorance, therefore speak my tale.
Then, worshipful Master Sylla, be it known unto you that my neighbour's daughter Dorothy was a maid of restority, fair, fresh, and fine, as a merry cup of wine, her eyes like two poached eggs, great and goodly her legs. But mark my doleful ditty, alas, for woe and pity. A soldier of yours, upon a bed of flowers, gave her such a fall, as she lost maidenhead and all. And thus, in very good time, I end my rueful rhyme.
And what of this, my friend? Why seek you me, who have resigned my titles and my state, to live a private life, as you do now? Go move the Consul Flaccus in this cause, who now hath power to execute the laws.
And are you no more master dictator, nor generality of the soldiers?
My powers do cease. My titles are resigned.
He signed your titles. Base mind, being in the Paul steeple of honour, has cast thyself in the sink of simplicity. Fie, beast! Were I a king, I would, day by day, suck up white bread and milk, and go a-jetting in a jacket of silk. My meat should be the curds, and my drink should be the whey, and I would have a mincing lass to love me every day.
Nay, goodman Curtall, your discretions are very simple. Let me cramp him with a reason. Sirrah, whether is better good ale or small beer? Alas, see his simplicity that cannot answer me. Why, I say ale.
And so say I, neighbour.
Thou hast reason. Ergo, say I, 'tis better be a king than a clown. Faith, Master Sylla, I hope a man may now call ye knave by authority.
With what impatience hear I these upbraids, that whilom plague the least offence with death? Oh, Sylla, these are stales of destiny by some upbraids to try thy constancy. My friends, these scorns of yours perhaps may move the next dictator shun to yield his state, for fear he find as much as Sylla doth. But Flaccus, to prevent their further wrong, vouchsafe some lictor may attach the man, and do them right that thus complain abuse.
Sylla, go you and bring the soldier that hath so loosely leaned to lawless lust. We will have means sufficient, be assured, to cool his heat and make the wanton chaste.
We thank your mastership. Come, neighbour, let us jog. Faith, this news will set my daughter Dorothy agog.
And they exit with a lictor. So this little section of this scene, and there's a sort of wobbliness to the sort of way this scene is progressing. It's this Sylla's change of direction of going, actually, Marius is dead. Oh, what will people think of me? Actually, maybe I don't want to be in charge. Is he heading off criticism? I don't quite know what is going on there. This sort of Chronicle Learish quality of maybe I would just like to retire and be a private citizen and let everybody else rule. And as we all know, never resign your post. Never do that. It never works. So that, and then we have, having vaguely resigned, though he hasn't possibly really resigned, we have these two, and the suggestion is that it might not be burglars, it might be burgers. Helen suggested that could be a typo. That's one to check. And we have these two comedy characters, and again, shall we say fourth optional clown role in the play. It's like the clown's going, I'm not playing one clown role today, I'm going to wear different hats and be a different character every time. That might be, that's what's going on there. So yeah, Curtall and Poppey, what's wrong in your lives? What's going on there?
Some people don't think ale is the best drink. That's terrible.
Yeah, heretics, burn them.
Lois.
Well, it's a rape accusation. I mean, one of the soldiers has raped this girl. I think if it's Dorothy, it's presumably Curtall's daughter Dorothy, isn't it?
Yes.
So yeah, that's changing the tenor of the scene somewhat from the banter that's going on there. What's this scene doing, or this scene doing within this sort of ongoing scene? Thoughts about this scene? Thoughts about Sylla first. I mean, you were navigating Sylla rather well. Well, how was Sylla for you, Emma?
Yeah, you as an actor, you have to manage this huge change where he goes from this bloated dictator just being crowned or inaugurated, whatever, and suddenly he starts reflecting on his own mortality and his own fame after death, and he goes really reflective, and you kind of have to find the cues in the script to make that change, and then his language and his way of being kind of just completely changes.
Yeah, because he's that yet silly boy line seems to be a possible pivot point. As a moment of reflection. Alan.
I must admit, I don't buy Sylla having had a change of heart. It comes across to me as, I'm going to pretend to be modest and I'll only accept the office when it's thrust upon me. That's how it comes across to me.
I would agree if it wasn't that some of his lines are clearly asides. I don't know whether it's authoritative, the one that is marked aside, but generally speaking, if it's an aside to the audience, you don't lie, and that's a genuine thing. But then I might be misreading those elements. Helen.
It was well known that the Roman tradition was that the dictator was put in place for a while, and then traditionally the best of them went straight back to what they were before. There's one who famously went back to his plough. They'd come to him while he was ploughing his field and said, Rome needs you as dictator. So he'd gone and been dictator. And then the day he left office, he went back to the plough, though presumably it was another season. So what he was doing there, I don't know.
Yeah, Cincinnatus, the city
Cincinnatus, that's the guy.
Cincinnati is named after him, yeah.
But there's something interesting about the way time is functioning in this scene. It's like time is passing, even though they haven't exited or necessarily exited here. You know, is there a scene break actually before we have the scene with Curtall and Poppey? Or is it just that there's a sort of sense of time passing, even though they're remaining on stage? It seems weirdly compressed as action. Lois.
Yeah, I mean, changes of heart often do tend to happen awfully fast, but it's clearly a sort of soliloquy when, because Flaccus comments, whilst graver thoughts of honor should allure what maketh Sylla muse and mutter thus, which suggests that they don't actually hear what he's saying. And that's when he is really having the big change of heart soliloquy. Then after that, he clearly does address Flaccus. So I don't know, maybe a soliloquy is a moment when time stops anyway, and you're meant just to feel that everything has been frozen.
Because, I mean, in a sense, on a modern stage, we can do, spotlights and time passes and things move around them, and while those soliloquies are happening, but in a sort of shared like context, it's a question of how easily you can this scene functions. But we've had other plays with ridiculously long speeches while everyone else has to stand there and wait, and he is Sylla. He can stand and think to his heart's content. I see Eric, then Rachel, then Stephen.
I was going to say that it's interesting how, like throughout the play, we've had all these changes of heart, like sort of if it's related to murder or whatever. And the last one to do this is Sylla. And it kind of feels like it's the sort of, it's preempted by all these previous changes of heart, and also sort of the one by the captain in the previous, when Antony's killed, sort of going, oh yeah, we could have had better luck if we hadn't killed him, or like we could have used this opportunity if we hadn't killed him. And he's like, I don't know, it just feels very sort of, it's a theme throughout. Also, I just wanted to flag up the line, sharpen the edge tool of your wits upon the whetstone of indiscretion. It's just a lovely line.
That your words may shine like the razors of Palermo. It's quite not a flowing little bit of dialogue. Rachel, then Stephen.
I think there's like a huge time crunch there, like right after the people hail him as dictator. I think there's this is where that like sequence would start, and like as he's talking to himself and having these asides, maybe the taking off of the decorations of the state until Poppey and Curtall come in, and when they come in, he's already very much looking retired, and maybe like something like Cincinnatus, how he's very definitely in his private life and costume, and also in the dressings of the stage. Like if people are coming in with slowly like pushing in furniture of like a private home as opposed to the scenes of the town.
Yeah, I think we've got lots of mechanics that we can utilize for modern staging. It all sort of starts with that entrance of Lucretius with the soldiers who expounds on his enemy. His enemies are all dead. Sylla's been fighting enemies constantly throughout the play, and now they're all dead, and so that maybe there's a sense of security that comes with that. And also just a general note that speech by Lucretius that I sort of acted as prologue is clearly a separate scene to the Sylla, so that perhaps needs to be separated as such. Stephen.
I wonder if the Poppey and Curtall thing is to do with the time, in the sense of this is, if it's about kind of telling us about Sylla, then You know, the play's not shy of having sort of anonymous randos come on to do one very simple thing and then go away again. I wonder if it's to do a little bit with the what may be a convention of clowns, which is that they drag you into the present day. Clowns tend to be present day figures, and so the tonal shift that if we make them clowns, the tonal shift takes us out of, you know, this kind of rapidly galloping on plot, takes us out of that into, as it were, clown time, during which lots of time can pass, if you see what I mean. We're kind of like there's a then and there's a now, and the clown takes us into now, which is away from then, so lots of things can happen in then.
Yeah, I like that. You know, there's "'tis better be a king than a clown," yeah, that there's almost a weird sort of zoom in on that and then back out again. The lights change and the things thing. Yeah, it's really interesting. We're going to have to move forward, finish the play, whereas we have a little bit of time. So we're effectively, the scene is continuing. Sylla is there. The two potential clown figures have exited, and with the lictor, and Sylla is still on with Flaccus and possible others.
Brave senators and Romans, now you see the humble bent of Sylla's changed mind. Now will I leave you, lords, from courtly train, to dwell content amidst my country cave, where no ambitious humours shall approach the quiet silence of my happy sleep, where no delicious joyocence or toys shall tickle with delight my tempered ears. But wearying out the lingering day with toil, tiring my veins and furrowing of my soul, the silent night, with slumber stealing on, shall lock these careful closets of mine eyes. Ah, had I known the height of happiness, or bent mine eyes upon my mother earth, long since, O Rome, had Sylla with rejoice forsaken arms to lead a private life.
But in this humbleness of mind, my lord, whereas experience proved and art do meet, how happy were these fair Italian fields, if they were graced with so sweet a son. Then I for Rome, and Rome with me, requires that Sylla will abide and govern Rome.
Oh, Flaccus, if the Arabian phoenix strive by nature's warning to renew her kind, when, soaring nigh the glorious eye of heaven, she from her cinders doth revive her sex, why should not Sylla learn by her to die, that erst have been the phoenix of this land, and drawing near the sunshine of content, perish obscure to make your glories grow? For as the higher trees do shield the shrubs from posting Flanagan's warmth and breathing fire, so mighty men obscure each other's fame, and make the best deservers fortune's gain.
And at this point, enter Genius.
But, oh, what sudden furies do affright? What avaricious fantasies are these? Oh, let me rest, sweet lords, for why, methinks, some fatal spells are sounded in mine ears.
Subsequitur tu amors, privari lumine Syllam, numina parcarum iam ferra precipiunt. Precipiunt ferra iam parcarum numina Syllum, lumine privari, mors tua subsequitur. Elysium petis, O Felix, et fatadici astri prescius, heroes, O petis innumeros petis, O heroes, precisius astri fatadici, et Felix, O petis Elysium.
And exit Genius at pace.
Ergone post dulces annos properantia fata, egone jam tenbrae premia lucis erunt, atamen, ut vitae fortunam gloria mortis, vincant, in extremo funere cantet valor.
How fares my lord? What dreadful thoughts are these? What doubtful answers on a sudden thus?
Pompey, the man that made the world to stoop and fettered fortune in the chains of power, must droop and draw the chariot of fate along the darksome banks of Acheron. The heavens have warned me of my present fall. Oh, call Cornelia forth. Let Sylla see his daughter Fulvia ere his eyes be shut.
Exit 1 for Cornelia.
Why, Sylla, where is now thy wonted hope, in greatest hazard of unstayed chance? What, shall a little biting blast of pain blemish the blossoms of thy wonted pride?
My Flaccus, worldly joys and pleasures fade. Inconstant time, like to the fleeting tide, with endless course man's hopes doth overbear. Naught now remains that Sylla fain would have, but lasting fame, when body lies in grave.
And enter Cornelia and Fulvia.
How fares my lord? How doth my gentle Sylla?
Oh, my Cornelia, passing happy now, free from the world, allied unto the heavens, not curious of uncertain chances now.
Words full of woe, still adding to my grief, a cureless cross of many hundred harms. Oh, let not Rome and poor Cornelia lose, the one her friend, the other her delight.
Cornelia, man hath power by some instinct and gracious revolution of the stars, to conquer kingdoms, not to master fate. For when the course of mortal life is run, then Clotho ends the web her sister spun. Pompey, Lord Flaccus, fellow senators, in that I feel the fateful dews of death steeping mine eyes within their chilly wet. The care I have of wife and daughter both must on your wisdom happily rely. With equal distribution see you part my lands and goods betwixt these lovely twain. Only bestow 100,000 sesterces upon my friends and fellow soldiers. Thus, having made my final testament, come, Fulvia, let thy father lay his head upon thy lovely bosom and entreat a virtuous boon and favour at thy hand. Fair Roman maid, see that thou wed thy fairness to modest, virtuous, and delightful thoughts. Let Rome, in viewing thee, behold thy sire. Honour Cornelia, from whose fruitful womb thy plenteous beauties sweetly did appear. And with this lesson, lovely maid, farewell.
Oh, tedious and unhappy chance for me.
Content thee, Fulvia, for it needs must be. Cornelia, I must leave thee to the world, and by those loves that I have lent thee off, in mutual wedlock rights and happy war, remember Sylla in my Fulvia still. Consul, farewell. My Pompey, I must hence, and farewell Rome and fortune. Now I bless thee, that in both life and death wouldst not oppress me.
And he dies.
Oh, hideous storms of never daunted fate. Now are those eyes whose sweet reflections cooled the smothered rancors of rebellious thoughts, clad with the sable mantles of the night. And like the tree that robbed of sun and showers mourns desolate withouten leaf or sap, so poor Cornelia, late bereft of love, sits sighing, hapless, joyless, and forlorn.
Gone is the flower that did adorn our fields. Fled are those sweet reflections of delight. Dead is my father, Fulvia, dead is he, in whom thy life, for whom thy death must be.
Ladies, to tire the time in restless moan were tedious unto friends and nature too. Sufficeth you that Sylla so is dead, as fame shall sing his power, though life be fled.
Then to conclude his happiness, my lords, determine where shall be his funeral.
Even there, where other nobles are interred.
Why, Lepidus, what Roman ever was that merited so high a name as he? Then why with simple pomp and funeral would you entomb so rare a paragon?
An urn of gold shall hem his ashes in, The Vestal virgins with their holy notes shall sing his famous though too fatal death. I and my Fulvia with dispersed hair will wait upon this noble Roman's hearse.
And Fulvia, clad in black and mournful pale, will wait upon her father's funeral.
Come, bear we hence this trophy of renown, whose life, whose death was far from fortune's frown.
And they all exit, and there are funerals of Sylla in great pomp. And that is the end of the play. So many things happening at the end of this play. Is this sudden turnaround to try and give us an opportunity to feel vaguely sorry for Sylla at the end? Like, he had a moment of self-actualization towards the end. He'd realized, maybe, and then what is going on with genius beyond sort of self-realization of that you're about to die. Oh, I'm going to die now. Yes, you are. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Lois.
I mean, I'd love to see an annotated edition of this because Genius's speech is extraordinary. I mean, it's actually palindrome. If you look at it, you get the words in one order and then you get them back again in the opposite order. I mean, it's bound to draw attention to itself, and it must come from somewhere. At least I don't imagine Lodge made that up.
It's this question of the audience getting what's going on at that moment.
I tried
Helen.
to translate it, but it seemed to be practically gibberish. But it's, as with a lot of palindromes, but it is apparently the first ever English printing of a word palindrome.
Ah.
So, I mean, that's all I kept on Googling it and looking for it, but that's all I found. Nobody seems to have translated it. They just noted it as a palindrome. Well, two palindromes, actually.
I mean, I can get the general idea, but it's saying, he's going to die.
You're going to
deprived
die.
of the light. The fates have decided that he's going to die. He should.
But he's happy. Felix.
Yeah.
And Elysium. You know, I mean, the second half is very positive.
I mean, there's almost is he having some sort of episode to it? Does he get power and then, this is all happening inside his head? There's some sort of, thing that, and there's a aneurysm or something, and we go inside his head for all these things that he would like to retire, and he just drops dead, and all this is his ideal things. These are all modern spins. I'm just finding the action of this is just fascinating. I'm really curious about why.
Yeah, I think the
Lois.
Romans did believe that every individual had a genius, a sort of spirit that looked after him. And I can think of plenty of references to it in somebody else's works, but not. I don't recall anything that I can actually quote legally. But that's clearly what's going on here. It's almost like the those things in the Philip Pullman, everybody's little mascot thing that goes around with them. So his genius appears, and tells him that this is the time to go. So when people say things like, now my spirit is going from me and so on, I mean, that's what happens. I guess the genius leaves them.
Well, that's going to ask the question, everyone here. What spirit animal does Sylla have? That's one for the chat, I think, probably. More importantly, but yeah, we get this death scene, and it seems to, the idea is that we're supposed to perhaps somehow feel for this person somehow, and it feels like an awful lot of work for a person who's been thoroughly horrible throughout the entire play, in a play with lots of people who are just playing politics and playing realpolitik throughout. So it's doing really interesting work. I'm just wondering, about this ending. Actually, there's something very strange going on. Helen.
De mortuis nil nisi bonum. That's the only thing I can think of, because there's no other reason to say anything nice about Sylla at all. The man's appalling.
And once again we have the re-entrance of hold on to your hats, people. Two women. Once again, the same two women we had earlier. once again, Cornelia and Fulvia to do the morning, and and it does beg the question of their function within the text, and their appeal as characters across the play. Lois, again.
I think it's interesting that the two women first appear just after Antony has run off, because they're doing the same sort of thing that he was doing for much of the play, offering a sort of feminine notion of compassion and being nice and so on. I mean, they do other things as well, but and generally, I think associating any character with women tends to give the impression that, well, there is a nice side of him somewhere, if one could only find it.
Digs deep enough. He let Scipio off. He let one person live. Okay, we're very much into final thoughts territory time now. But Eric, well, your hand is up, so I'm going to go to you for whatever your current thought is, as well as your final thoughts about the play overall, because I think you've been here for most of the week.
I've been 2 out of 3 sessions. I was just going to say that it's an interesting play because everyone seems to get a death speech. Which is rare. Usually, like for example, in Troublesome Reign, even King Edward gets a death speech, but then other people don't, or vice versa. So it's interesting who they choose to give death speeches to, as well. And as a play, it's changing expectations all the time, isn't it? And sort of subverting itself all over the place. It's like the writer just decided to sort of go, yeah, I'm just gonna see what happens, and like I mean, obviously it's history, but literally, but just sort of jumping from one expectation to the other. Yeah, so it's the expectations of history, but and how do you compress elements and what you decide to keep and what you decide to throw out, and that's something we've Helen's mentioned in the past about looking into the history and what the history, the sources that Lodge would have had at the time, and precisely what he would have been, the work he would have been doing there. Valentina, I think you've been here for the week. Final thoughts about the play overall?
I'd be really interested in seeing a second look on this, because I found today, especially the last 2 scenes, very long and not very useful. But I also I think I disagree on the burglar scene being like a way to make the time pass. I don't think time has passed at all. I think if you put it up in a public space with shared light, it makes sense. I mean, I don't know if it makes sense that they come on, but it's part of the universe, because we've had random people come on before in the Senate. It's just that they got killed and these ones don't. Kind of thing. But yeah, I'd be curious to see a second look on this, just to see if the ending stands up with the rest of the play, or if I still think it's a bit fuff and should be cut short.
Yeah, I mean that's always one of the things that we do take the momentum out of these things. That's why we do a second look. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree on that point. I like it when we're in some stuff. And I also like it when people horribly disagree with me and screaming rows occur. Rachel, you have been here for I think 2 sessions. So yeah, your overall thoughts about this, and say pointing it towards that question of what we do with this in terms of performance and going forward.
I'm not sure what to make of it, because this ending, I think it kind of really throws me, because it's like the end of this civil war, and it's I don't know, it's an ending very sympathetic to Sylla. And even though I know that historically he winds up becoming dictator and it's a transition to the Roman Empire through him, wasn't expecting for all this, for him to be sort of transformed into this sort of wise man from this cunning dictator who was very, very ruthless. I would give this a second look, though, because I'd like to see it from the beginning.
Lynsey, I think you've been here for 2 sessions as well. You've been Sylla in the past.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Thoughts is that this final section, Sylla's change of heart and apparition of the genius, and Sylla's death is an ending to a different play somehow. But I haven't gone back to look at the first part of it. So it does seem to be like a many-headed beast to me at the moment, with just different things going on. A very tiny point I would like to make is that they never do bring back the soldier who's accused of rape. So what is that scene even about? What is its function other than a sort of mild diversion of some kind? I really don't know. I would definitely love to have another look at it, simply to get more of a sense of what it is. And in terms of the staging of it, a modern staging of it, I was sort of remembering some years ago, Deborah Warner did a production of a play that shall be nameless. And for the citizens, yes, I see that quacker. For the citizens, it was a touring production, and for the citizens, in every town it played, they recruited 100 people, non-actors, to come and play the citizens, and a sort of movement director would come and work with them the week before so that they were ready to perform. And I was sort of thinking that could work really well with this. Like, for example, the massacre of the rest of the town after what's his name dies, there are various things that could be done in terms of movement and sort of choric action, which might be useful, although they may also add to the time. So just thoughts.
No, good thoughts. Alan, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting piece. I think one of the things I found most interesting in it is the way that quite a number of the scenes seem to be set up to get audiences expecting one particular way it's going to turn out, and then there's a sudden volte-face at the end of the scene. I mean, in the bit we've just finished, the fact that we've had 2 what feel to me like deathbed conversions with both the principals effectively, dramatically don't actually work that well for me. It will be interesting to see what happened if it was done at pace.
I do think there's a context issue with being in the moment for those that we're losing here.
And I think, as has been hinted at, I think quite honestly the sequence with Poppey and Curtall quite honestly could be cut, because I don't think it's actually adding anything to the meaning of the piece. It seems, I'm almost wondering if that was put in there to actually give either actors a chance to change costume or scene hands time to actually change the setting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it because it's so close to the end of the play that it doesn't seem to have a structural function.
No.
But, maybe I'm wrong. Because everyone's sort of on, if that makes sense, because there's an awful lot of supernumeraries in theory about this. It feels very small, this scene, because only about 2 or 3 people are ever talking at any one time. But in theory, they're surrounded by senators and stuff going on. I'll go to Lois for her final thoughts.
Yeah, I was thinking about Poppey and Curtall. They seem to be in there to show how different everything is now for Sylla. I mean, he comments that people might be afraid to give up power because look at the way you're treated once you do, because even these 2 guys don't have any respect for him anymore once they find out that he isn't in charge. I think it is also meant to really to reinforce the idea that he has changed. I mean, he comments himself that normally he would have had someone's head cut off for behaving like this. I mean, it's odd because he talks about with what impatience I broke this. I think that must be patience, in fact, not impatience. Or at any rate, he's not being impatient in a situation where he normally wouldn't wouldn't waste any time and would just get them killed. And then he does do justice. I mean, he does say, find this soldier and punish him. So I think it probably is meant to reinforce this idea. But I really have no idea what you would do at the end here, because the obvious way to play it would be ironically, with all these people saying, gosh, we've got to think of something really big for his funeral. I mean, he is so fabulous. And, the audience is just not going to be going along with this. So I don't know what you can do to kind of ironize this.
Yeah, it's it's that sense that almost like Sylla is just growing older and older as through the scene. By the end he's got long grey hair. The wig comes on that we had earlier, and all those criticisms of our age, and because it just feels like time is passing, even though everybody's still on stage. We've had that in other plays before. Pamela, you were one of the Poppey and Curtall. Your thoughts coming in at this latest innings?
I kind of had high hopes, and I was all excited because everyone's like, "Oh, it's a really great play," and I feel like I've been a bit let down this afternoon. No reflection on anybody, obviously. I kept waiting for Sylla to change his mind again. I thought that Poppey and Curtall were going to be there to kind of goad him back into his actual personality, which didn't happen. And then it just felt like a kind of easy death scene for him, which I didn't want, basically.
The curse of day 3 strikes again. Tamara, final thoughts?
I think a lot of my thoughts have already been voiced, so to speak. I mean, I want a second look as well, personally, because I think there's a lot that right now kind of eluded me a little bit, especially with how much these characters lie, because you can't trust what they're saying, and that makes the first look kind of difficult, because you're going, wait, I need to hold up, what? And the same sort of happens with every scene, because they're definitely subverting your expectations all the time. And so it's I just glanced at the chat and somebody said something about the ending being a cop-out. The ending is definitely something that stops you short, because you're not expecting that kind of deus ex machina. And I'm just very confused by this play. I am liking it, though.
Yeah, it's one of those, sometimes the problem with a play that keeps surprising you is when you get to the end and it still surprises you for an ending, then that can be quite unsatisfying. But also it's a question of actually the ending can be, you can do all sorts of things with this if we think of this as material. So what do we want to necessarily tweak with this ending? What sort of ending do we want? Elizabeth, you've been here at the beginning and the end, missing a bit of the sandwich in the middle. Any final thoughts there? No, we've lost Elizabeth there. Hello, Elizabeth. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just heard something making noise in the background. I switched off. I really like, there's a comparison with this narrative, which is more like a Roman tragedy narrative compared with the Turkish plays that we've done. I was really thinking about it. I think it was the Battle of Alcazar and Salamis and the other kind of the Courageous Turk. There are a few of the plays that we've done that are Turkish in their meanings, have more murders in them than suicides, but also have some suicides in them. And I was thinking about the fact that there weren't that many murders in this play, but there were quite a lot of suicides. And I thought that was a very interesting change for us in terms of dramatic action, that I wasn't expecting characters to turn on themselves. And I just thought it was a very interesting idea, something that we haven't explored that much in our performances, in our exploring looks. We haven't really looked that much at suicides in narratives. So I thought it was an interesting change for us.
Emma, you've only been here for today. Final thoughts?
Yeah, sort of got thrown in to the final where Sylla kind of achieves everything he's been working towards for the whole play. And then in that final scene, just everything, this huge kind of all these changes happening that he has to go through, from being the dictator to suddenly becoming philosophical and realizing that maybe his luck's run out, and then his death and this really soft family scene at the end. So I think, yeah, it would definitely merit a second look, and to ensure that the way you play all of that is truthful and not kind of weird or implausible. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more to be dug out, I think.
Dan, any final thoughts?
Yes. First, I want to back the notion of doing a second reading of this. I would love to see this back to back with Looking Glass for London and England, which also I believe deserves a second reading as well. Which was a medieval morality play. And I felt that there were certain themes that were shared in here about the idea that he's being, I guess, sort of redeemed in the end. I absolutely think that the two burghers' entrance is crucial to this play. I think it brings him right back down to earth. It gives him the time to, it gives him the onus to have a shift there, in my opinion. One other thing, just to note on my interest in the printers, this is once again the printer John Danter, who we've seen many, many times, Fairham, Orlando, Old Wives' Tale, Jack Straw. And once again, we have the super descriptive stage directions in here, again, inserted all over with timing and whatnot. This doesn't mean it's a perfect printing, but it just makes me curious, considering this was done by a different company than the rest. This was Admiral's Men versus Lord Strange's Men versus Queen's Players. So it certainly seems to be one of his ticks of interest to me, that is.
Yeah, excellent. Stephen, final thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of with Pamela, really. I didn't really enjoy it very much. I think I've been there for all of them, haven't I? Struggling to work out why. I think you could do a very good production of this, and I think the kind of play world seems to me to be quite thin. There's the way in which tragedy gives you a sense of a material world. This is just for me, it's a kind of lots of people running and running off, and the sense of the relationships between these people, I think, is quite sort of attenuated. It's something you would really fix in performance. You'd have a whole load of resistible rises. Now, I get the feeling that Lodge has read a lot of Roman history and has just come up with a list of events from Roman history. There's kind of sense of not just a shaping sensibility. I think the material is kind of beyond the dramatist here, and so the job of a production would be to kind of give it the focus that I think some of the time that it lacks.
Yeah, it has to be said. It's one of those things that it was very exciting at the very beginning of the week because it was so nicely structured. It's always easier to destroy a world than necessarily conclude how you're going to put it back together again or end the piece. It's not like Gorboduc where you can just lead everybody depressed. Maybe a lesson has been learned somewhere along the lines. You need to leave people with some kind of resolution, and maybe that was felt that was necessary. I don't know if Helen agrees or not. Final thoughts, Helen?
Yeah, I think that the author was having problems with history because he got the basics of the story, which were known, and he couldn't change that much. And he didn't call his play The Tragedy of Sylla or The Rise and Fall of Sylla. He was talking about the whole of the Civil War and a lot of other characters, but Sylla rather took over. Also, the Civil War, in fact, continues. So this is just Act 1. And it ends up with another perpetual dictator called Julius Caesar.
I mean, what's nice about that as an option, of course, in terms of staging, is that, we can prefigure that as the play closes.
Spot on, exactly what I was going to say. I think it would be a great idea if the funeral was a moment at which the knives came out.
Can I just add something to that? The full title is actually The Wounds of Civil War, lively set forth in the true tragedies of Marius and Sylla.
There you go.
There you go.
Though only one of them gets a death speech, or one of them Mariuses, depending on which Marius you wish it to be the tragedy thereof. I'm going to just briefly just play against the curse of day 3 of just reiterating how exciting and engaging and how much wonderful world building was going on in the first 2 sessions that we did on this play. The possibilities here with some characters. I think my frustration with this session, mirroring everybody else, is that again, it's not necessarily resolving all of the characters who are set up earlier, and that there is something odd going on with the way everything is getting packed in at the end. But I think it's all very, very fixable in performance, and actually just simply for that opening, that first half being so strong, and so much other good material, that this play is not only worthy of a second look, but of other things as well. And of course, if you're interested in doing more, seeing more of this, then let us know. Comment, become a patron, and tell us that you want more of this. Just follow us on Twitter and constantly go on about it. You can do these things. It's only known as bullying and harassment. That's fine. That's what the internet's for. All that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers in this room for all their wonderful performances across this week, and goodbye.
Bye.